All right, and welcome back to another episode of the GMT Podcast here in OSI Podcast Studio at All Night Study at the University of Central Florida. And I am here, as always, with my co-host, Ogarth.
What's up, everybody?
And it was a pretty great weekend. Not that every day isn't great to be a Knight, but it was a fun weekend to be a Knight this weekend because the Knights were able to pull off a W over the Connecticut Huskies this weekend with a 24-16 win.
Yeah, it was a great win. It was a comeback win.
Yes, it was a great comeback win, and what we kind of talked about last week, it was a great bounce-back win, especially because what we led into last week was kind of talking about, like, they need to avoid getting into a rut.
Yeah.
And that first half, for majority of it, looked like that rut was going to happen because, UConn was up 16 to nothing. Was it 16 to nothing at one point? And then UCF actually roared back in the second quarter to make it 16-14 at halftime. And then the Knights were able to shut out the Huskies for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a nice comeback win. Also, Milton.
Yes, he did. He did a lot better. I will say last week's episode was a dedicated hate letter from me to him. Maybe not that as intense, but it was definitely a good performance from him, and what was marked by it that made it such a great performance was no turnovers.
Yeah.
That's huge. And there's no turnovers by the Knights whatsoever.
That was a huge
That's fantastic. And that's very big, and to be able to, it's always great to force turnovers, but if you don't have any unforced mistakes that you give the other team the ball in other situations, that's going to help you win, and it's normally going to aid in making it a lot easier day.
Yeah, most definitely. I was hoping another Maryland game wasn't coming to us.
Yeah, because you just didn't know, because the Knights have been a bit of a mixed bag the past couple weeks.
They had their ups and downs.
Yeah, but this was a big win on the road in the American Athletic Conference to keep it going to advance to 2-1 in the conference, which could end up being very important as the games come down for these past couple weeks, and we will get into that later. For what I'll ask you, who was one offensive player that you liked this week?
Most definitely Jordan Akins.
Jordan Akins?
Yeah, with a touchdown catch. It was beautiful, to say the least.
It was. And it was someone that I talked about last week.
Yeah.
That I said that I really like, and I thought the Knights needed to utilize more because of his talents, and they went and did it this week, and it paid dividends for them because he was a big part of why they won.
Yeah, the only tight end turned receiver, turned back to tight end.
Yeah.
He can do it all.
For a guy on offense that I liked, I'll give it back to Milton again. I did. I liked him a lot. I thought I didn't get to see the end of the game because of just driving back here and whatnot, the lovely drive from Tampa. But I was impressed by, and I'm not normally a big fan of stat lines, but 29 of 45 for 317 yards and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's huge. And he's going to need to put up stat lines not necessarily as monstrous as throwing it 47 times or 45 times for over 300, but it needs to be efficient like this was and to not turn over the ball. Because that's something that if the Knights really do want to roll with him from here on out for the rest of the conference play, the teams are going to get a little tougher with Houston next week, and it's going to be something that if he's able to recreate a performance like this, we're going to see a lot more success and a lot more wins start to pile up.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterback play, the Knights just did land their third quarterback of this recruiting class, Daryl Mack, a 3-star commit.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. As if anyone that does follow me on Twitter, I did post about that this week, talking extra crap about Milton, which I'm glad he ended up going and proving me wrong this week. But it is something that it's exciting that players are starting to come in bunches, and it seems like we're not necessarily blue chip yet, but it's certainly some solid players that they're starting to accumulate, because not like all of these teams, you look at like a Florida State or an Alabama, they get their 5 stars as they do, they lead the recruiting class and whatnot. But where the value that these teams get is in the 3-4-star guys that they're able to develop to be able to get that chance. Yeah, because some of these players could be playing at some smaller high school, so they're not going to be rated as highly or get as much looks, so their ratings are not going to be as high. So it's interesting to see if you get some of these people to see whether or not they'll be able to develop and be able to compete with the 5-star guys that go to these juggernauts.
Most definitely. But on our way back to the game, who did you see on the defensive side of that?
I enjoyed Shaquem Griffin. I thought he was very good. We had 10 total tackles, 5 solo, and half a tackle for a loss, which means he teamed up with someone. Our front play was very impressive this week, and it was a part of if you're able to shut out a team in the second half, that means that you're being just enforcers on the ground to be able to stop the run, which Knight's been very effective at, and Shaquem Griffin has been a big part of that. And he actually, and him and his brother were the focus of a great short that was, I was told was actually kind of taken from UCF coverage a little bit, but it was on national coverage for College Game Day yesterday on ESPN. And it was exciting to kind of hear a little bit more about that story of just kind of how they've come this far and how they've overcome everything to be able to get to this point and be major contributors on our team. And it just was exciting that we got that kind of national recognition, which you're not always going to get at a school like UCF just yet. But it was awesome to be able to see that in the morning and get ready for the game. I was excited.
Yeah, most definitely. The link will be in the description.
Yeah, it was a lot of awesome stuff. And what we'll also do is kind of a little different, is that we'll also say a player that we want to look to improve in the coming weeks. And if you don't mind, I would like to start.
Go ahead.
I kind of want to call out our place kicker, Matthew Wright, to be able to improve. He was 1 for 2, which means he wasn't called on that much. He was 3 for 3 for extra points. We'll say that. But we need to be a little bit better converting, because the first field goal he missed was like a 30-yard field goal. We can't be missing that. And I've actually talked, not necessarily on the show, but I've talked pretty highly of our specialists, because it's a very talented group of kickers. I got to see a lot of them last year, so of kicking off and whatnot. And punting, but it was a really talented group, and I think they need to be held to, not necessarily like the coach needs to get on them, but just for themselves to kind of understand there's a lot of talent there, to be a little bit higher standard for themselves, because Wright is a really good kicker, and kind of something to push forward in that sense. Is there anyone that you see you would like to improve in the coming weeks?
For me, it'll just be the defense as a whole. We didn't have any interceptions or any real forced turnovers, so on the whole, turnovers for us are always a big thing.
Yeah, that is something that as a defense, it helps an offense that could potentially be having trouble at the quarterback position. That's not to keep ragging, but for a young offense that's adjusting to a new scheme with not necessarily having the players to run that scheme just yet, it helps if you get extra chances with the defense getting themselves off the field by creating turnovers. And to kind of finish off our coverage for the game, what is one word you would use to describe this game?
Comeback Kings.
That was a good.
That's actually 2, but
hey, that's fine. That's fine. We'll crunch it together. My word would be relief. Yeah, it was a relief, because as we talked about early in the game, it just didn't look good.
Yeah.
Offense was not clicking. We weren't getting anything. We went down. We shanked a field goal, a 30-yard field goal, and that can be a killer in a game is missing a field goal. So it was a relief to me that they were able to kind of fight back and be able to hold on to the win to finish out the game. And actually, something before I just remembered this we can talk about for the game was that UCF left the civil conflict trophy on the field that we technically won yesterday from UConn, because it's news to a lot of Knights fans, because it's kind of not very publicized by UCF. But 2 years ago, the UConn head coach by himself decided to create a rivalry trophy, a rivalry game between us and UConn, and did not speak with UCF about it. And UCF was kind of like, what? Because UConn was kind of like, oh, we want to beat them, so they're our rivals now. And they made like a trophy and everything for it. Like, it was called the Civil Conflict Trophy. Like, the coach like pushed and created all of it. And UCF and O'Leary at the time was like, no, I'd never heard about that. Like, it's kind of hard to be rivals with a team when you're 9 states away. And UCF has kind of not really acknowledged it as never heard about it. Yeah. And it's been around for like this may be the 3rd year for it. And UCF yesterday at the game was awarded the trophy, and they left it on the field. They were giving it to them, and they just left it like in the center of the field. They just walked off and just left it there. So a UConn staffer was just standing there with the trophy and had to awkwardly go put it on a bench and cover it up with a towel so someone wouldn't take it. So, and this will be a little bit described similarly to me, because I got this a lot from like the extra details from a Night News article where the link will be in the description, where they kind of talked about that. Was how I read a little bit more that UCF just straight up left it on the field. And so they're saying that that's probably the end to this conflict.
Civil conflict.
Yeah, so it was really odd, but I give UCF a lot of credit for just kind of being like, no. And it says something for UCF as a program that they're very committed to not acknowledging something like that, because it could very easily be that like they didn't care about it last year or the year before, where last year we didn't win, so UConn won the trophy or whatever. But for UCF to then, even when we won, to not be like, oh, well, we'll take the trophy now. Like, no, like we still don't give two craps about this, and just kind of leave us alone. We'll see you next year when we play it. So it was a very interesting, just kind of end of the game storyline that wasn't super controversial, but I thought was hilarious on UCF's end, and it kind of says something about what Frost and the program kind of sees with that stuff. But I think that what we can say for Frost after this week, because I kind of said that we need to kind of be seeing some progress a little bit more than we have in the past couple weeks. I thought this was a big progress week because they talked about, as we kind of alluded to, that a rut could happen and a bad mental mindset. And looks like Frost, at least for this week, was able to get these guys ready to go to UConn and play in a chilly game that could have been very easy for this team to lose, and it could have been very understandable. But Frost was able to get them to work and get a very important win.
Do you think Frost was more aggressive this week, or?
It seemed like I don't think the issue was last week fully. I think I talked about this, was him not being super aggressive.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't him trying to outthink it. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain times where you're a fantastic coach, but if you outthink yourself, then you're just opening up to like giving a game away to a team like UConn or Temple. And so I think Frost did better of trusting his own decisions and just realizing that I need to let these guys play. I'm going to push the buttons to put them in the spots and to let them do that.
Yeah.
And they did that this week with converting with 3 touchdowns from Milton as a complete turnaround from last week. So, and that's important to do from here on out, that Frost's decisions will be important to be able to put them in good spots, but he can't try and hide anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think he tried to do a little bit last week with Temple, was he tried to hide some issues with offense to kind of lean on the defense a little too much, where we got to give the offense a little bit more to start expanding and develop Milton as a quarterback if he is who Frost wants in the future. So it'll be something to look at as the games go on to see how he handles the games.
But with the win this week, that opens AAC wide open.
Oh, it does. And and we can talk about that when we get into a little bit more of our college football picks. We can do that, but just for a brief rundown of all of the other night scoreboards, as we were talking about, is we did see that you do have the men's soccer scores.
Yeah. Earlier this week, the men's soccer took a W against Stetson, a 2-1 win, and also on Saturday they won an extra time with a golden goal, 2-1.
That's awesome. So we were able to get the double punch with UConn this weekend to take the victory in both men's soccer and football. So that's awesome, and that is definitely for the men's soccer team an important American Athletic Conference win because they were not doing so hot to open it up. And another game we can talk briefly about to mention is it was senior night this week on Sunday for the women's soccer team. It was a very hard-fought game, and I was really proud to kind of send these seniors off with a nice hard-fought game.
Yeah.
And then what we can get into now is we can talk about our picks from this last week, because we did the revolutionary thing. If you watched last week, we did write them down. Yeah. And the first game we can talk about was what was kind of the big matchup for the weekend, was Texas A&M and Alabama.
Yeah, I've most definitely picked Alabama.
Yes. Yes, and I picked Texas A&M, and as I was Snapchatting you talking crap in the beginning of the third quarter, it looked like A&M was keeping it close. And that's something that, like, if they were able to run away and pad some points onto it, they could have potentially beaten Alabama, but Alabama was Alabama. And Hurts did respond well to a rough first half and ended up making it not a huge win for Alabama, but it was a comfortable one at 33-14. So it was a fun game until the end, But it was a good game.
Yeah, there's way too many targeting
Yeah, that's something it's really hard in college football because they are striving to make this game safer, which is something that has been a concern since college football started.
Mm-hmm.
Not to do the whole history lesson, but it is something that's a big issue that a lot of sports face, especially football, which is such a high contact sport, that targeting is something that they're trying to do to try and make the game safer for everyone, so you don't have guys lowering their heads and taking nasty hits, and it's keeping everyone healthy, so you can keep your stars on the field. Yeah, so from an A&M standpoint, it's keeping a Trevor Knight on the field. From a Bama standpoint, it's keeping a Jalen Hurts on the field, because the game's a better sell, and that's for all football across the board. Games are a better sell when the stars are playing.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why they're doing this. And I think from certain points they showed in that game that actually it's making a difference with some of the hits, because there was one where this guy went up and however many, 4 years ago, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
He would have been destroyed, like that soccer player who woke up speaking Spanish from that coma. He would have been waking up speaking Portuguese or something like that from that hit. But it's something that they're trying to work and fix, that it just will be a little frustrating in the process as stuff becomes questioned, because it is all judgment calls at the end of the day.
Our second pick, we had
Auburn and Arkansas, which I thought this was going to be a close game, to be honest. I didn't think it was going to be 56-3, which was the largest win over a ranked team this year, was 53 points, which is what Auburn just poured onto Arkansas, which Auburn opened up strong. As I texted you about this, was that they opened up 21-0 in the first quarter. And just Auburn did not look back. So apparently, if you just pick off of the campus beauty, then you can get W's. Because that was such an innocent pick on my end that it just paid off so well. But unfortunately, we go to the rubber match, which was Ole Miss and LSU, and did not pay off.
Yeah, LSU for me. I told you if Leonard Fournette comes back, it's over for him.
And he came back in a big way. A game.
Yeah, 253 rushing.
What? I didn't realize it was that much.
Demolished some people in open field.
Oh, yes. There are videos all over the internet about it. But, yeah, no, he had a return to form, because there's a lot of talks he hasn't really played the past couple of weeks, as rust would become an issue. And I don't think that was the case from the highlights I saw. He had himself a good game, but then that does defer it to you.
Yeah,
the victory, which I believe puts our overall series at U3, me too.
Yeah.
So I'll try and bring the tie back this week as we.
It won't happen.
Okay. We'll look forward to some of the other scoreboards, but briefly before we completely close the book on this week, was some big games in American Athletic Conference play that happened.
Yeah.
Which was Temple actually pulling off the upset over USF in Philly yesterday, which was massive.
Yeah, that was a big one.
USF, they did what UCF did last week. They gave the game away, and I give Temple a lot of credit for being more than capable of receiving and being like, yeah, we'll take the win. If you don't want it, I'll take it. But it was something that I give Temple a lot of credit for kind of pulling that off, because USF just seemed like they didn't want it at the end of the day. And it showed, as Temple was able to do that. So that's the first American Athletic Conference loss for USF. And then the second loss for Houston came this weekend at the hands of SMU. Bonus points to anyone who's able to comment to me as to where SMU is, because
I don't even know.
Yeah, I'll leave that to viewers. I'll tell you off air. But yeah, for viewers, if you're able to tell me where SMU is, then the show will be in your name next week. But yeah, because that's exactly it. It is an American Athletic Conference game, so that loss kills Houston.
Yeah.
That's bye-bye. We said after the Navy game it was bye-bye college football playoffs, but definitely now that kind of puts that to bed, and it may even destroy them for the American Athletic Conference as well. Because 2 losses.
Yeah, 2 losses. Navy's up to 4-0 in the conference too.
Really, man. I talked crap about Navy last week, but it'll be interesting to see if USF's able to put a stop to that, because as every win from here on out for USF and UCF are crucial for competing for that conference, to get to that conference championship game, to try and pull in a trophy.
And Temple's in the mix now too.
Temple won't be in the mix when they play other teams, but for some reason UCF and USF wanted to completely roll over for them. But that's besides the point, because UCF will have a chance to really make that game on Thanksgiving mean something, because they will be playing Houston this weekend.
That's a big
in Houston. I think we don't do picks for UCF games, but I think UCF comes out strong and they're able to take it to Houston in the first half. They're going to get Houston to quit. I think they will, because that's what a bunch of not so great teams in Tulsa and now SMU have been able to do. That, see what the Knights do. Because if I'm Frost, I'm saying, listen, we come out and punch these guys in the mouth. Could end up making that war on I-4 in Tampa on Thanksgiving mean something a lot more. And it could end up getting a hell of a bowl game if we're able to get to that American Athletic Conference championship and go a little bit further. But can't happen without the win
against Houston
on ESPNU.
So make sure you guys watch that one also.
All right, then for our picks this week, we have picked just the best games for this weekend. There's a lot of good matchups this week, as it has been. College football's been very nice to us these past couple weeks, as there have been a lot of exciting games, and even some games we didn't expect to be exciting were exciting, as heartbreaking as the Ohio State game was. No one expected that game with Penn State to be a game, and it ended up being an awesome game, for at least from a fan standpoint, for casual fans. But nonetheless, we shall move into Week 9 of the season, and a team that has been very impressive this year is Washington, playing Utah this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go Washington in that game.
Washington. I will go Washington as well, just because they've been on such a tear, and that defense has been impressive.
Yeah, and the offense.
Yeah, you're 7-0 and number 5 in the country for a reason. But it will be interesting to see is Utah has had a very good year as well. They are 7-1, and they're kind of climbing up in the rankings as well. So it'll be
a good one.
Whether or not it's a game. I hope it's a good game. As for any game, I mean, I love winning picks, but if it's a good game at the end of the day, that I will take over anything. So we'll both take Washington and them kind of solidifying themselves for a college football playoff berth. But what could have a lot of college football playoff implications this week is Nebraska and Wisconsin. Nebraska being undefeated and Wisconsin having, as what we talked about, an impressive 2-loss team.
Yeah, that's the only team you can say it's impressive for a 2-loss team. I'm going to have to go with Wisconsin. I feel like they'll bounce back and they'll take...
That's something for Wisconsin, that this is going to be huge, because they talked about this on College Game Day. They said, is there any scenario where a 2-loss team makes it? And Herbstreit was like, and everyone was like, no. And Herbstreit, and I think Desmond Howard made the joke of he put they were doing emojis or something like that, and he put Santa Claus. He's like, because you're more likely to get a guy together to get some reindeer to fly and deliver presents than a two-loss team. And Herbstreit was like, so you're saying for Wisconsin, they went out, they beat the winner of Michigan, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. They're the Big Ten champs.
They're in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's like, there's your reindeer. and that's exactly it, because I was like, no. Then he described that, and I was like, oh, yeah.
That can make sense.
No, that'll be it. So, but I'm going to go Nebraska. Why not? Wisconsin's offense has not been super exciting. So if Nebraska's defense is able to take advantage of that and be able to grind on that Wisconsin defense, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I think Nebraska will pull it out, stay undefeated to kind of continue their run up the rankings, as they have finally pulled into number 8.
Finally.
Then the game we just talked about was the Big Ten heavyweight matchup. But at 8, the game we all want to see, aside from the UCF game, is Clemson and Florida State, which will really be deciding the fate of the ACC.
Yeah. I have to go. I'm saying if Derwin James returns, I'm taking FSU.
I take FSU regardless. We've talked about this. I don't like Clemson.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think that, be it a hangover or whatever it is from last year, they should have one loss already.
They should have lost to Louisville.
And they should have lost. No, they really should have lost to NC State.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's a definite. The Louisville game could be up for debate because that game played out, but you could definitely look at the NC State game.
Yeah, that field goal, if that was made, that was a
yeah. I mean, that they would already have a loss, but I think Florida State gets ready for this one, and I think that I don't know if lightning will strike twice for Clemson to be able to beat Florida State 2 years in a row. Then again, we could also be entirely wrong.
Yeah.
But so our rubber match we'll be deciding between is Nebraska and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it'll be some great games this weekend, and hopefully I'm able to rebound to even the series.
He won't rebound.
For episode 6 when we're back next week. Before we get out of here today, we'll talk about, just briefly, there are some awesome Halloween events that are going on at UCF in the coming week. I know there's a scare trail, and if there's anything else, just check your social media accounts that you follow for UCF and other student-related organizations around here. You'll be able to find anything that will be able to give you the spooks you're looking for this Halloween. And as always, do not forget to subscribe after watching this video. Share it with all of your friends. I mean, all of them. Just don't, even if you think you've already shared it with that one friend, share it again. And just do all of that, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. And the handles appear now. They're there. They're here. Wherever. They're in the lower
They're somewhere around here.
And also, we will be doing a Halloween-themed episode next week. Make sure to tune in. We will try our best to get it out early on Halloween, so it's not on November 1st, but we will strive to get it done Monday. Tune in to see what Halloween costumes we'll have and what tricks or treats we'll have.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then to get us out of here, we will do our quotes. I believe I let off last week, so you can go first this week.
Okay, I have a quote by Stephen Wright on language tapes. He said, "I brought one of those tapes to teach you Spanish in your sleep. So during the night, the tape started skipping, and now he only stutters in Spanish."
I have another presidential quote this week. It's not W, though. I have from Harry S. Truman. If you can't convince them, confuse them.
That makes sense.
That's a solid, that's a solid quote. And as always, we thank OSI Podcast, Zoe Hammond, the director, for letting us in. Thank Leland. He can plug whatever he wants of his stuff right here in the lower third since he is editing. But thank you as always for editing and shooting all of our content. We could not do this without you, literally, because I can't work a camera. And we will see you back next week.
Charge on. Charge on.
Podcast.
See you guys later.